that when only a Kalenjin is in power, ndio wanasikianga this time is not enough? Why is it when a Kalenjin is in power is when you want to rule for 24 years and until you die? Why is it that Mwai Kibaki found it fit within his constitutional limits to exit power? You want to tell me that one little boy full of himself, a boy called Ishongwa, unable to balance his emotions and his hormones, can intimidate His Excellency Raila Odinga? William Ruto has unleashed all the government machineries to make sure that the Kikuyus do not progress economically, so as to weaken them economically, and as a consequence of which they get weakened politically. Apende wasipende. Tarehe 17 mwezi wa 5 mwaka wa 2024, sisi sote kutoka Mlima Kenya tunakongomana pale Limuru.
What a pleasure, what an honor to have you on Richard Mwenja Exclusive, your go-to point on matters, politics and governance analysis here in Kenya and across the region. It's always a distinct pleasure to have you on board. My name is Richard Mwenja, and today we advance our conversation on the state of the nation with none other than renowned advocate of the High Court of Kenya. He's also known as the Black Bull for people who come from Mount Kenya region. He's a celebrated lawyer and governance analyst. I'm talking about none other than the son of Kirinyaga, Kishugu's biggest export, certainly, after Mother Karua, the first of his name, Ndego Anjiru. Why are you flattered, though? But I'm just stating the truth and the facts.
Well, Richard, you know, when you give me that kind of an introduction, and then I start to think about myself, I then begin to wonder whom you're talking about.
Don't you know that you're such a force to reckon with?
But you know, it's always good to have some of your friends mention good things about you. And that makes me very humbled. Yeah.
Very well. Welcome today. At least we afforded a glass of grape juice.
Thank you.
How is it this far?
Thank you. I'll never ever regret why I came. You know, the office setup is not a very good setup because you're not open to such kind of opportunities. Yes. And it's really tasty. Thank you.
Yeah, sure enough. And also to build up your energy while you are conversing.
Yeah, because we need a lot of energy. And to gather ourselves up to 2027.
What is happening in 2027, just besides the election?
Mr. William Ruto is serving a constitutional presidential term. Although the Supreme Court declared him president, and as much as I accept that Mr. William Ruto is not my president, we have to allow him to serve his full presidential constitutional term, which will end on the 8th of August, 2027.
Likelihood of him getting a second term?
We must not allow it to go beyond that.
Is that a personal standpoint or the
it's
others?
It's not a personal standpoint. It is not me. It is them who voted for him, who are saying, Wakili, on 8th of August, 2027, tupatane kwa debe.
Even the same church that he was a darling to, and the hustlers in the streets?
No, the unfortunate thing is that we can no longer trust the church. The church has lost its credibility and its social seating in the society.
Look, they're interceding for us. Haiti Mission, the first lady.
Let me tell you, Mr. Richard, have your own personal vertical relationship with your God. Don't depend on this church. The church has misled us. The situation we are in today, the embarrassment that we are in today, the heavy taxation that we are in today, the landlord will be paying 1.5% of the rent that he generates from his houses. The worker who is paying 1.5% of his salary. The coffee farmer, the avocado farmer,
Macadamia.
the macadamia farmer who cannot sell his farm produce today. The coffee farmer who has not been paid to date is as a result of the misrepresentation by the church.
It has played dumb to the cries of the people?
It has not played dumb to the cries of the people, the church. The church has gone to bed with the devil.
At what price?
At the price of Mwananchi, at the price of coffee farmer, at the price of the people in Nyamakema and Ludhuri Avenue. And by the way, yesterday we had a serious episode in, in my estate. People, KRA and the so-called anti-counterfeit goods
Yeah, sure. Authority.
authority are only pursuing the Kikuyu. And I want to say, facing the camera, the Kikuyu-oriented businesses.
Is that a statement of fact?
A statement of fact. Call me today at the DCI, gonna give you a statement. I challenge Mr. Amin to call me tomorrow to his office to record this statement.
And who is
That the Kikuyus are the only persons who are being pursued.
For what gain? Why the Kikuyus?
Why the Kikuyus? Good question. Why the Kikuyus? Is because Mr. William Ruto has learned that the Kikuyus are no longer with him. So what he has decided to do is to frustrate the Kikuyu business persons and businessmen and women to make sure he impoverishes them so that come 2027, the Kikuyus will not be liquid enough to support their own candidate or a candidate of their choice, because we still have the Azimio fraternity, which Kikuyus have now embraced. So as a strategy of emasculation, Mr. William Ruto is targeting the Kikuyu businesses. If you're a Kikuyu businessman, you are either being pursued by the anti-counterfeit goods,
Or the taxman?
or you are being pursued by KRA, or you are being pursued by the EACC, or you are being pursued by the DCI. William Ruto has unleashed all the government machineries to make sure that the Kikuyus do not progress economically, so as to weaken them economically, and as a consequence of which they get weakened politically. That is why he had the guts and the audacity to say that he will not allow one community to progress against other communities. So if you are a Kikuyu there, listening to me, you come from Mount Kenya, you are a Meru, you are a Kikuyu, you are an Embian, and you are listening to me, wewe jua chuma chako kimotoni.
From your submission, then, it begs the question, do you consider part of the Dabibi land
It is
to be part and parcel of what you are saying, a motive to fight against the Kikuyu community?
You know, William, sorry, why did I use that word? Sorry, God.
You've been the face of it with Jimmy Wanjigi. You called me William, and you have to take back your
sorry,
word.
Richard, you can never be William. You have no capacity to think like him. You see, there's something that we call submission by coercion, or loyalty by coercion. So William Ruto want to coerce you economically, politically, and socially, so that you can become submissive, or you become loyal to him. That is the strategy being used in Mount Kenya region. What we call the dictatorship of the proletarians. That is exactly what is happening in the Mount Kenya region.
For Dabibi land issue, which you've been the face of it,
yes,
alongside Jimmy Wanjigi.
Yes.
I mean, what do you make of that?
I must commend Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi. I must commend Honorable Her Excellency Martha Karua. I must commend Honorable Kioni.
Jeremiah Kioni.
For and I also must commend Mr. Maina Jenga for coming out in defense of the people of Dabibi. The people of Dabibi They have been there for the last 60 years. All of a sudden, William Ruto has acquired that land. I flew over that land with the chopper, courtesy of Jimmy Wanjege. He wanted me to see how the Kikuyus are suffering and the way they have been subjugated and emasculated. William Ruto has fenced the entire land, over 1,500 acres.
There's a perimeter wall there.
There's a perimeter wall. Na kuna watu wanaishi huko ndani, kuna makanisa, kuna misikiti, kuna police stations, na kuna mashule.
And how certain are you that he's the face behind it all?
He is the face. Didn't the member of parliament for Naivasha, one Jane Kihara, I will not use deliberately, I will not use the word honorable because she's not honorable. Jane Kihara say that William Ruto is a person who has bought that land. That is, as the scheme I was speaking about, the strategic emasculation of the Kikuyu and the Mount Kenya community by the William Ruto regime.
Is that then what informs the Limuru 3 meeting on 17th of May this year?
Richard, when you take out the means of production to a particular community, and the means of production being land, in this case, where do you leave that community? You impoverish that community, politically, economically, and socially. And that is a scheme Mr. William Ruto has. And therefore it is upon us to know that Limuru 3 will be a time to debate about these things. And by the way, it's not just about the Abivi. He has also taken a big portion of land. Mr. William Ruto and his cadres have taken a big portion of land in Del Monte.
Here in Thika?
Hapa Thika tu. Hapa Thika. Amechukua mashamba huko.
Land grabbing is still an issue under his regime?
It's not, I don't know whether grabbing is. Land grabbing is a policy of the KK regime.
But this is a government that highly spoke against that vice when they were campaigning. What changed? What happened there?
What happened is that William Ruto was never sincere in whatever he was speaking.
A son of the church could not be sincere even then?
Let me take a sip. And I urge you to also take one.
Moving on swiftly, now that you don't want to comment.
He has never been sincere.
Much as the darling of the church.
I told you, he used the church in the hustler narrative to fraudulently obtain from us.
Very well.
Yes.
And to clear the air, so Limuru 3 meeting, because I am aware that you're part of those planning it. Is it going to happen on 17th of May this year?
Richard, do you want me to look at the camera?
Yeah, sure. That one is your camera.
As I look at this camera, I juxtapose my submissions on the right to association and on the right to self-expression guaranteed by the Constitution and Article 31 of the Constitution. And I dare say that that right has not been limited. And Mr. William Ruto will not be the first person, and his cohort, Mr. former DO Gachagua, will not limit that right. I therefore say candidly that on the 17th of May, 2024, we are meeting for Limuru 3 to deliberate on the plight of the people of Mount Kenya region. We shall speak about our political destiny, economic destiny, and the social destiny. Those will form the agenda of the Limuru 3.
And would you be gracious?
Wapende wasipende. Tarehe 17 mwezi wa 5 mwaka wa 2024, sisi sote kutoka Mlima Kenya tunakongomana pale Limuru.
And would you be gracious enough and just be generous with the truth about this issue? Because there's a section who believe there's a handwriting of Uhuru Kenyatta behind the
No. Limuru 3.
Clear the air.
Limuru 3. His Excellency, the retired president, is not in it.
You are honest about that?
It is driven by the desire to determine our political, economic, and social destiny.
Nothing to do with the Kenyatta's interest in the mountain.
The mountain is bigger than the
Kenyatta's.
President Kenyatta and his family. It's bigger. It will not be a subject. But we shall also ask, wewe ukisha retire, wewe ukisha toka kwenye kiti 2027
or 32 maybe.
Hakuna 32. Hakuna, there is no another chance.
One term?
Kama George Weah. As it happened in Liberia, so it shall happen in Kenya. As it has happened in Senegal, so it shall happen in Kenya. On the 8th of August, 2027.
Then that would be historic.
Yes. He made history by stealing votes and becoming president. He will make history by becoming the first term president.
You won't say stop.
And Kenyans, I invite you to help Mr. William Ruto make history by becoming the first vice president to become president and becoming the first president to serve for one term.
On what grounds? Kenyans, that he has been incompetent?
On the ground of incompetence, ineptness, on the ground of him not responding to the plight of the people, and on the ground of corruption. Because this regime is dwindled with grand corruption.
But it is walking the talk on the fight against corruption. Look, right now, former Muranga Governor Mwangi wa Iria is in the court corridors.
Mwangi wa Iria,
Uhuru Yatani is in the court corridors.
Mwangi wa Iria is a victim of circumstances, which I spoke earlier on by saying that they want to mop out any capital in Mount Kenya region, so that Mwangi wa Iria may not have a position to support a candidate to wrestle William Ruto. So it is a wide scheme of making sure they mob out free money within Mount Kenya region to make sure that Mount Kenya region will not be liquid enough to sponsor a candidate of their choice. And a candidate of their choice does not necessarily mean that he must be a Kikuyu, an Embian, or a Meru. No.
And then what do you make
of
Uhuru Yatan's corruption charge?
Is about let me finish about Mount Kenya region. Mount Kenya region, we have no problem with His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka. We don't have a problem with His Excellency Raila Odinga. We don't have a problem with Her Excellency Martha Karua. And we don't have a problem with Waziri Eugene Wamalwa. We don't have a problem with Honorable Kioni. We have no problem with Honorable the former member of Parliament for Gatanga, Peter Kenneth. We have no problem with the Kenyatta family. We have no problem with Lee Kenyanjui. We don't have a problem with Derito Mureithi. We don't have a problem with Jamulek Kamau.
Or maybe Peter Munya.
Or even Peter Munya. We don't have a problem. Our problem is the KK regime that is emasculating the Mount Kenya economic prowess. Our problem is with the KK regime led by William Ruto and former DU, Rigathi Gachagua, politically emasculating us, economically emasculating us, and socially emasculating us. Those are our problems, and it was evidently exhibited in Muranga when Rigathi Gachagua and William Ruto ordered the arrest of 80-years-old Kikuyus, women and men,
don't you think
and labeled them as Mongeke.
Don't you think there's an issue with public figures and celebrated people like you who are out here and publicly politicizing the corruption subject? Don't you think you are running a parallel agenda from what the government is trying to do, which is fighting the vice?
If are ever fighting the vice. And if Mr. William Ruto is sincere that he doesn't want corruption, let him first of all demonstrate by returning the Western Hotel to the Kenya Airport Authority. If Mr. William Ruto is sincere in fighting corruption, let him tell us what happened in Kimurel and Arol Dam and what led to the acquittal of his friend, the former David Rotich.
Henry Rotich.
Henry Rotich.
Former Treasury Chief.
Henry Rotich. If he's sincere, let him tell Mr. Gachagua, the former DO, to account for the 200 million which he stole from the county governments of Bungoma and others.
Shifting gears, because you have two other fronts that we need to converse on, and let's begin with the African Union Commission chairperson bid for Raila Odinga. And we've seen majority leader in the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, come forth and ask Raila Odinga to be humble and instead to respect his chief campaigner, who is William Ruto. All thanks to, this actually came after Raila's public assessment of the government's unpreparedness towards disaster response. Do you think that is sort of intimidation and blackmailing tactics by Kenya Kwanza to cap the voice of Raila Odinga just because they are sponsoring his AUC bid?
Richard, you want to convince me that the little boy from Kikuyu constituency, one proud, ignominious Ichung'wah, can intimidate His Excellency Raila Odinga? You want to tell me that one little boy full of himself, a boy called Ichung'wah, unable to balance his emotions and his hormones, can intimidate His Excellency Raila Odinga?
He has just requested him to be humble and respect his chief campaigner for the AU bid.
We don't want his advice. Purely. We don't want Mr. Ichung'wah's advice. Let him advise his people that he advises. His Excellency Raila Odinga is contesting for the
African Union Commission chairperson
as a matter of right, as a matter of a Pan-Africanist, as a matter of a person who has championed democracy in Africa, infrastructure expansion in Africa, socio and democratic expansion in Africa. And he has a right to contest for that post.
But if you're going to...
But that right does not mean that he should be muted, he should be emasculated, he should be silenced just because he's a Kenyan. You cannot, there is no comparison under the earth, under the sun, under the stars, under the moon, between Kimani, the little boy from Kikuyu constituency,
majority leader in the National Assembly,
the little boy from Kikuyu constituency, one Ichung'wah, and His Excellency Raila Odinga.
If you go
equally well, there is no comparison in the African status between His Excellency Raila Odinga and Mr. William Ruto. No comparison.
If you are going to write off the advice or the Council of National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah...
Which council? Don't speak about the council.
Do you then...
Don't change the twist of my mouth.
Very well. Do you then invite the Council of Belgood Member of Parliament Nelson Koech, who has asked Raila Odinga to understand the seriousness of the office he is pitching for, and he
Let
needs
me tell you, what you must understand is that within us as Azimio, we understand that it's not a matter of life and death for His Excellency Raila Odinga to become the chairperson of commission.
Nelson
The reason why His Excellency Raila Odinga want to become the chairperson is so that he can be able to expand the economic status, social status, and the political status of the African continent. He's the only person suited to take that seat. Remember, His Excellency Raila Odinga spoke about a standard gauge railway from Nairobi to Kinshasa.
Connecting the entire region.
How much would that do if His Excellency Raila Odinga became the chairperson? Just that. He spoke about the expansion of the standard gauge railway from Nairobi to Cairo to Kinshasa, right? To Kisimayu, right?
It would have a ripple effect.
To Ibadan. It would have a serious ripple effect. Tell me, among all those contestants, who equals His Excellency Raila Odinga? So when this little boy from Kikuyu speaks, he's speaking from a point of oblivion, misinformation, misconception, yes? And he has no right to advise us on what we need to do.
Could he also be speaking from a Raila phobia perspective, those who fear Raila Odinga, the political stature that he is, an enigma?
Let me tell you, I don't know you even want to give credence to the little boy who has serious issues of his hormonal imbalance.
But for Nelson Koech, Belgut Member of Parliament, he's only asking Raila Odinga to cultivate some sense of demeanor.
You are quoting,
and also...
You are quoting irrelevant past people. Non-issues. That Member of Parliament is an issue.
He's asking Raila Odinga to just tone down on the combative nature.
Let him advise. Let that Koech. Let the little boy from Kikuyu constituency advise Mr. William Ruto on how to change the plight of the people of Kenya. Let him not advise His Excellency Raila Odinga.
But remember,
His Excellency Raila Odinga has his advisors. He chooses them on merits as opposed to the KK regime.
But then again, what do you make of the warning that has been sounded to you people who somewhat, by and large, support Raila Odinga? He has fired shots, warning shots to you that there's need for Raila Odinga to understand that the resources government is using to sponsor his AUC bid or to campaign for him can be directed to other alternative
Let me
fronts.
tell you.
Gideon Kimayo, member for KO South, has warned that.
Tell that Gideon. Tomorrow, asubuhi, hiyo pesa, hiyo resources anasema, I direct.
They can divert it into other alternative
Let them divert to the changing of the plight of our people who are in CBC. CBC system is in a mess. Our children are getting a lip service. His Excellency Raila Odinga does not need those resources. I know if he were to be consulted and asked, he would say, direct those resources towards making the life of the Kenyans better than it is. William Ruto has only one vote in the AU. The rest of the AU embraces His Excellency Raila Odinga. And he's the best person suited for this. But that does not mean that he should be silenced just because he's a Kenyan. And
to clear the air on that particular subject before we go to the last front in this debate, do you think Raila Odinga can do without the support of Kenya Council's government and endorsement?
Raila Odinga I would only say that His Excellency Raila Odinga is an African enigma. Yes.
His networks go beyond Kenya?
He is an African enigma. In his first address, when he addressed the nation, that he was contesting for this seat, he was not introduced by Mr. William Ruto. He was introduced by another enigma, His Excellency Obasanjo. It tells you that His Excellency Raila Odinga has tentacles in the entire Africa.
Very lastly, and in the interest of time, on this conversation about the state of the nation and particularly on governance issues and politics, what do you make of the proposal by Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei, that which has to do with the extension of the presidential, governors, and members of parliament term limits from the current 5 years to 7 years, just so to achieve better service delivery in his own opinion and development? What do you make of that proposal?
I'll only ask that little boy, Cherargei.
A fellow lawyer like you.
My junior.
Come on. Do you have to belittle him?
My junior. I have to belittle him because his statements are not commensurate to a person who has been through a fully Frenched education system.
You don't credit him with deep thinking?
What did you say? Do
you credit Samson Cherargei with deep thinking?
Deep?
That's my question.
Deep thinking? Cherargei? You attribute him to deep thinking? You attribute morons and mediocres to deep thinking? You attribute bootlickers to deep thinking?
Why label him a sycophant?
You attribute sycophants to deep thinking? Richard, I don't think you're serious.
He's only asking for an extension for better service delivery and development. Grace of time.
I will ask him, in 1991 or in 1982, how old was that boy? I'll ask Cherargei, how old was this boy in 1986 and 1987 during the Mwakenya crackdown? I'll ask this boy, Cherargei, how old was he when his grandfather Moi was castrating Kenyans who had a distant voice? I'll ask him how old was he when we had a one de jure party system. I'll ask him, where was he in 1991 when we said no to one single state? I'll ask this boy, where was he when we, in 1997, when we formulated the IPPG and said that we must have presidential term limit? I'll ask him, where was he and does he know the history of Romania in regard to Ceausescu? I'll ask him, does he know why we need presidential term limits? Anyway, I leave it to him to ponder. But what I can say critically and emphatically,
in a minute,
is that we shall not allow
extension of
term limit. Why is it that when only a Kalenjin is in power, ndio wanasikianga this time is not enough? Why is it when a Kalenjin is in power is when you want to rule for 24 years and until you die? Why is it that Mwai Kibaki found it fit within his constitutional limits to exit power? Why is it that His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta found it fit to only serve for 2 terms and exit power? Why is it that when a Kalenjin is in power is the only time you want to serve for more than 10 years? Why is it? What's it so unique about the Kalenjins?
I'm then curious from a political standpoint to understand, could there be a hidden face and handwriting behind the proposal by Cherargei for extension of term limits, or it's a purely Cherargei's genuine concern?
When you see a dog barking, look for its owner.
There could be an owner in this one?
The owner is Mr. William Ruto. Remember, the guy for Davik also stated that he should rule for 25 years.
Why are you certain that it is Ruto? There are also other
people. There
people.
Cannot be any other person. Listen, even when these guys were in Pokot and the director or the owner for Davik mentioned about 25 years, Mr. William Ruto never discounted it. Davik. He never distanced himself from those sentiments. Even now, when this little boy, my junior, Cherargei, is making those allegations, William Ruto has not said those proposals. William Ruto has not said, hiyo ni mambo ya Cherargei, sio yangu. So when you see a dog barking, look for its owner.
When you see a dog barking, look for its owner. That is the sentiment of none other than Advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Ndegwa Wanjiru, today pushing forward a clarion call to the government to better recalibrate their governance style so that they can see, or rather realize, a second term come 2027, also better so that they can leave behind a formidable legacy. We've discussed on a plethora of issues, a cocktail of issues in the world of politics and governance. And we thank you so much, Ndegwa Wanjiru, for gracing our occasions. And thank you for honoring our invite. You're a very busy person.
I've really tried to press myself to make sure that this is done. But allow me to make sure and grant me latitude to say that on the 17th of May 2023, we are meeting at Limuru. And there is nobody who can stop it, and nobody can turn us.
What are the notable figures that are likely to attend the session or the meeting?
There is no notable figure. If you come from Mount Kenya region, irrespective of what you do, where you live, who your father was, you are invited in Limuru. It doesn't matter where you come from, who your father was, your education level, because when coffee is not paid to date, does not only affect the rich, it affects everybody. So on the 17th of May 2024, come to Limuru 3. Tutazungumuza maneno yetu huko na tutajadiliana maneno yetu. I don't know if you can allow me to speak in Kikuyu for 1 minute.
Yeah, just for 10 seconds.
Gwenda kuga atiriri. Muthenya wa mweri 17 mweri wa gatano mwaka wa 2024 kayuna gacukuru arema mwite Mount Kenya region, either we Mumiru, we Mwikamba, we Mwitharaka, we Mwembu, we Mugikuyu, tugacemania Limuru. Na tucemania Limuru nigetha tucire cira witu wa Mugikuyu, turia atiriri, ni haki gukorwo ati kawa gaitu gatiri karari bwa nginya thaa ici. Ni haki gukorwo atumia maitu ni marutirwo kindu gitagwa okoa mama kama kana leader mama. Ni haki gukorwo ati nginya macani maitu matiri maribwa. Ni haki mundu kuthi gutongoria aria mangi makaiye mburi cia mundu. Ni haki ithuĩ Gĩkũyũ ri na Meru ri na Embu ni twĩtĩkĩrĩtie kindu gĩgwĩtwo wĩici. Githĩ mũici ndagaragaragu na mwatu. Githĩ mũici ndari mũici ari na mwene. Uyu muramu defend niki.
I'm saying Gordon Kinothia from Germany is asking me, will Gathoni Wamshomba from Githunguri attend the session? Is she likely to attend the session?
This session is open for any person who comes from Mount Kenya region.
Okay.
It has no status, it has no class, it has no stratification. It is an open forum for every person, and therefore any person who desires to come and speak about the issues and the plight of Mount Kenya region is invited, including the former DO and the former member of parliament for Mathera, Rigathi Gachagua. Yes, let him come and participate, not as a deputy president, but as a person who comes from Mount Kenya region. Hata yakikuja tutamwonyesha mahali atakaa.
Very lastly, Mukami wa Mwariama from Dallas in the United States of America is asking me, are you sure Ndegwa Wanjiru is not envious? Him and his group are not envious of Rigathi's position in the government of the day. Perhaps why they are going for Limuru 3.
There is nothing to be envious about
Gachagua's position
Gachagua
in the government of the day.
You know, if he had some credentials, you'd be envious about. But this is a person who has even claimed in public that is that is mentally emasculated and that is very feeble.
You have to be polite.
So there's nothing to envy about Mr. former DU, Rigathi Gachagua. Absolutely nothing. He never got this seat.
Okay.
Meritocracy. He got this seat because he bulldozed his way.
That would be our next conversation. Thank you so much, Ndegwa Wanjiru, for coming through for us. We wait to see you on our next edition here on Richard Mwenje Exclusive. It's always a distinct privilege and honor to have you on board. For Ndegwa and Ndegwa Company Advocates, who've always fronted us an opportunity to host one of their own, Ndegwa Wanjiru, we say asante sana to the entire team, and Ndegwa, Mwangi Ndegwa.
And you know, and Lorraine Ndegwa.
Oh, Lorraine Ndegwa.
You've never given me an opportunity to congratulate her, my wife, my dear wife, my lovely wife.
You now have 4 seconds to do
for
that.
Giving me, for bringing forth a baby girl.
Okay.
She gave forth to my daughter, Mami Wangui Ndegwa Wanjiru.
Wangoi Ndegwa.
Congratulations.
Wangoi Ndegwa, we are so blessed to have you on this planet that is Earth. We wait to see your greatness unfold in the fullness of time, and we speak blessings to you. Until next, on Richard Mwenje Exclusive, do enjoy the rest of your viewing.